Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all who have tuned in for this AMN Epoch 5 review. Let's just kick off by saying we're really excited to keep up these AMAs and Epoch reviews with you all. For those that don't know me, I'm pretty new here. I'm James, JMH in the Discord, for all those who I've interacted with already, and recently been fortunate enough to be successful in acquiring the role of community lead for the foundation. If we haven't interacted yet, I'm sure we will in the near future as we build out this great platform together. So if you have any community related questions and we don't have time here, then just jump into my DMs and we can chat right away. I'll start off with the introductions of those who are present in this call. So here today from the foundation team are myself, David and Josh, and from the trading team at Dydx are Everett, Corey, Mark and Antonio. In terms of how we're going to structure this today, David will spend some time going through all things Epoch 5. Antonio, they will then touch on the recent exciting V4 announcement and answer one or two pre-populated questions regarding this, followed by both the team and foundation answering questions that were posted in the Discord over the last few days. And then we'll finish with an open platform for all questions requested by you all here today. Prior to just kicking this off, let's just start with a few housekeeping rules. If and when you're invited to speak, just please refrain from any price discussion. Doing so will result in you getting kicked from the server. I'm sorry, you all know the drill here. Please listen for existing questions before you post yours to ensure it hasn't been asked. When you're on the stage, please only ask one question. It will give other members of the community to offer their thoughts and questions. And finally, just please stay on topic. Off-topic discussion not related to Dydx or the foundation will be moderated. David will be talking about all things Epoch 5 now. David, over to you.
Yes, really excited to have you join the Dydx Foundation. So similar to past AMAs, I'll spend the next 10-15 minutes just walking through Epoch 5 milestones. We'll be publishing the Epoch 5 review in the near future. I just wanted to highlight some of the major KPIs over the last Epoch. So during Epoch 5, total volume on the Dydx protocol was approximately $40 billion, with average daily volume around 1.4 billion. Ending open interest declined slightly to 908 million, and total value locked decreased to 911 million at the end of the Epoch. Overall, these are pretty strong results given the overall market volatility that we've been seeing over the last few weeks. Dydx continues to be one of, if not the leading decentralized exchange from a volume standpoint, and we're encouraged to see a lot of our growth metrics reflect that. In terms of the number of Dydx rewards, so in the last Epoch, there were 6.5 around 6,500 unique wallets that earned 5.8 million Dydx through trading, liquidity provider, and staking rewards. In total, there's been over 44,000 unique wallets that have previously earned Dydx from the retroactive rewards, trading, and liquidity mining rewards. Currently, there's about 21,000 unique wallets that currently hold Dydx, and approximately 1,700 unique wallets that currently hold staked Dydx. One interesting trend is we've definitely seen a large increase in number of staked Dydx token holders, and I'll get into that a little later, but I think encouraging to see a lot more users stake their Dydx. And approximately 50% of all wallets that have earned Dydx in the past still hold it today. In terms of the LP rewards, so in Epoch 5, there were 16 addresses that were eligible for LP rewards, with the majority earned by 2 market makers. This is pretty similar trends and competitive dynamics from prior epochs. Overall, we do see a lot of competition in the pool among market makers, but a lot of the rewards end up accruing to the 2 largest market makers. So this is a trend that we're continuing to monitor, And obviously our goal here and the goal objective of the pool overall is to bring in as many market makers as possible to provide liquidity on DYDX. In the past, so market makers that have met the 1% threshold in Epoch 5 are now eligible to earn rewards in Epoch 6. So encouragingly, we see 17 addresses, so 14 existing and 3 new addresses that did more than 1% of maker volume in Epoch 5, and thus are eligible to participate in the LP rewards program in Epoch 6. One notable change, if you recall, in Epoch 5, the community voted to introduce staked DYDX to the LP rewards formula. And so, started in Epoch 5, all 16 addresses that earned LP rewards had to hold staked DYDX to be competitive in this pool. With regards to the liquidity staking pool, at the end of Epoch 5, there was 526 million USDC staked from 758 users in the liquidity staking pool. There are 4 market makers that have borrowed USDC from this pool. We saw quite a lot of withdrawals over the course of, or requested withdrawals over the course of Epoch 5. And at the start of Epoch 6, there's currently 260 million USDC that is staked to the pool and earning DYDX rewards. With regards to the safety staking pool, there is now 20 million DYDX that's staked in this pool from 1,746 users. So this is a very significant increase relative to past epochs, and really reflects, I think, token holders' long-term view of the protocol. Again, at the start of Epoch 6, there's still 20 million DYDX staked, so we didn't see a ton of requested withdrawals, and those 20 million DYDX are earning pretty juicy APRs and earning DYDX rewards as a result of backstopping the protocol. In terms of total circulating supply, so at the end of Epoch 5, there's 8.41% of the total DYDX supply that is now considered liquid. And this excludes the unearned retroactive rewards that were transferred to the treasury and the DYDX that vested in the community treasury over the course of the epoch. If you included both of those numbers, circulating supply would be about 11% or so, and increases at a rate of around 0.5% every epoch. In terms of broad governance proposals, we continue to see really active discussions in the forums around proposals that cover a lot of important topics. And so I think, generally speaking, pretty encouraged by the level of engagement and dialogue going on within our community. I think, one of the proposals that I'm personally most excited about, and I think the community was as well, is the community unanimously supported launching the DYDX grants program, which the DGP. And so on January 10th, 752,000 DYDX was transferred from the community treasury to the grants committee multisig to fund multiple RFPs. And so I think this is really a huge milestone for the broader DYDX community. The DGP represents one of the largest grants programs in all of DeFi to fund community initiatives. The grants committee was formed by a team and a company called Reverie, and is managed by a multi-sig of 8, really strong crypto people from kind of various backgrounds. I think I caught up with the Reverie team earlier this morning, and they indicated that they've had over 40 applications come through, which I think is really awesome. to see just the level of interest in building cool tools around DYDX. And so, really want to encourage all hedgies to get involved to build better tools for growth, governance, bots, analytics. There's really a pool of capital that's available to fund projects that help drive kind of the overall growth of the ecosystem. So one area in particular that I think apparently there's been fewer applicants is really around kind of governance related tools. So, if you're a builder or involved in kind of the community and the governance side of things is something that excites you, I definitely encourage you to look at the RFP lists on the website dydxgrants.com and apply. And additionally, if you have other ideas that are not listed and you want to submit new RFPs, this is really meant to reflect an opportunity to have the community drive new projects and get funded by the Treasury. The second governance proposal that I wanted to highlight, the DYDX Foundation started a thread to create a framework to determine eligibility for liquidity providers to borrow USDC staked to the liquidity staking pool for market making purposes. Again, there's 5 liquidity providers that are currently approved to borrow the 260 million USDC staked in that pool. The community has control over adding, removing, and changing allocations to approved market makers. Market makers can help drive, can borrow that capital and use that capital to provide additional liquidity on DYDX. I think it's the foundation's view that currently a lot of Dydx rewards are getting are being rewarded to stakers of USDC without having that capital being utilized for its intended purpose. So the foundation put together a framework that lays out requirements for adding new liquidity providers to this pool. Obviously, it's completely subject to governance and requires a snapshot vote and an on-chain vote to be implemented. But I think this is really an important proposal to get feedback from the community on to really help drive additional liquidity onto various markets on DYDX. The third governance proposal that I wanted to highlight is the proposal submitted to adjust the LP rewards formula by adding more weight to the spread. There was a snapshot vote late in the Epoch that ended up that did not pass. It failed to reach consensus on snapshot, and thus no changes were made to the LP rewards formula. I think, overall, if you look at the thread, there was a lot of really interesting discussions from some of the leading market makers in the space. I think other kind of lessons learned is the poll really highlighted several issues with using snapshot polls to change LP rewards formula and off-chain variables more broadly. And so earlier today, the Dydx Foundation created and published a thread that included several minimum requirements for binding snapshot votes. So there's certain decisions that don't currently require an on-chain vote, notably any change to the trading rewards or liquidity provider rewards formulas. A simple snapshot vote, which is off-chain and gasless, is enough to indicate consensus there and change those formulas that are currently off-chain. And so to ensure the integrity of the governance process, the foundation indicated or suggested some minimum requirements for snapshot votes, which are now effective immediately. So obviously welcome kind of the community's feedback on that thread. But overall, we think that that's an important proposal and adjustment to maintain the integrity of the governance process more broadly. And then lastly, just some updates from the Dydx trading side over the course of Epoch 5. I think there were a lot of really exciting announcements that we're excited, or the Dydx trading team is excited to kind of talk more about in the AMA. But I think most importantly, the team announced the plan to launch the next version of the protocol, version 4, by the end of 2022. As indicated in the announcement, V4 will be open source, fully decentralized, and no central party, including Dydx Trading, will have the ability to receive trading fees. So I think this is just a major announcement that's really exciting for the community that we're building, and really lays out a vision from a product standpoint of what's to come over the next 12 and 24 months. Two other important kind of highlights on the trading side. So trading announced that the maximum leverage available to BTC and ETH was reduced to 20x from 25x, and the fee schedule was reduced up to 66% for a minimum of 3 months. So less leverage on BTC and ETH, which, given the volatility in the current markets, is definitely a good thing. And then I think most importantly, it's just much cheaper now to trade on Dydx. Very much in line with centralized exchanges, and really an opportunity to trade more frequently without paying as much in fees. So I'm sure there's a lot of questions on that, and excited to have the Dydx trading team on here. Obviously, there were other announcements earlier today around the Trading League product, which is also really exciting, which I'm sure that the team can share more on as well. And then lastly, in terms of just end of Epoch operational stuff. So Epoch 5 ended January 18th at 3 p.m. UTC. As per usual, rewards are claimable approximately 7 days after the end of the Epoch. So rewards will be available to claim tomorrow, January 25th at 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. UTC. So that's approximately 7 days and an hour delay from the end of the Epoch. And so once you've claimed your rewards, you can transfer them, you can stake that to the safety module, or you can delegate them to Dydx governance. That's it on the Epoch review side of things. We'll be publishing the blog post in the near future, as well as a tweet storm summarizing a lot of these statistics. And again, if the community has any feedback on these reviews, always feel free to DM me, and happy to coordinate on that. Thanks, James.
So if anyone has any questions regarding anything David's just said, Epoch 5, then just hold off until the end of this AMA, where you'll be able to raise your hand and ask questions at that time. So next, Antonio, I can see that the community has had a few questions for you. Are you happy to answer these on here? I can go through them. The first one is, will you release your research with Paradigm soon? Is there any date confirmation with that? And that's from Method Main on Discord.
Thanks, James. First of all, thanks everyone for joining the call. It's good to have you on. So just to give some context on this question, one of the things that we announced in the past month was the launch of, that we're working on Dydx V4. One of the things we talked about in that post is the main thing we're working on Dydx V4 right now is the research side of the project. Specifically, this means what exactly we're going to build, how we're going to approach building a decentralized order books, the types of products that we're going to offer on the exchange, and pretty much from an architectural perspective, how exactly the next protocol is going to be built. So specifically as it relates to this question, will we be releasing any of our research findings with Paradigm along the way? We will continue to give updates generally as we go along. I think the main way we're focusing on building out this project is getting a lot further along on the research side and also on the implementation side before we release too much information publicly. I think probably the blog post that we put out just a couple of weeks ago is the best thing to refer to. And again, the main problem that we're trying to solve for the protocol is how do we fully decentralize the protocol? But yeah, directly responding to the question, we don't plan to release too much information, probably in the next at least 1 to 2 to 3 months on exactly what we're building. But I promise you we are building some big stuff, and I'm personally pretty excited to release more information on it once we have things a little bit more solid further down the line.
Awesome, that's great. Next question coming in from the Boring Trader. What are the mechanisms by which you will achieve full decentralization?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I don't mean to be too obscure, but probably the answer is fairly similar to the previous question. I talked about this, or we talked about this in the blog post, but the main problem that we're trying to solve for full decentralization is how exactly do we decentralize the order book and the order matching system on Dydx? Maybe taking a step back, like why is this so important, and why do we think it's so important to continue to use an order book based model on the full decentralized version of Dydx? I've talked about this a lot in kind of podcasts over the years, but one of the really exciting things that's happened on Dydx, especially in the past couple months post the Foundation's token launch, is a ton of professional traders are now trading on Dydx, both individuals and really legit crypto trading firms. And the main way these traders trade is programmatically, and they are really used to trading on order book based models. So it's really important for us as a protocol and in the product more broadly to be able to support those really professional traders that demand access to the leading sort of trading models, and that's order books. So I know that wasn't exactly the question that was asked, but sort of just giving a little bit of background on like why are we trying so hard to decentralize the order book when there are, let's call it, proven decentralized trading models that are not order book based and that empirically do work in the wild, specifically like automated market makers. That's not what we're going to be building for Dydx v4. We're going to be building a decentralized order book, and I don't think that has really ever been achieved so far by anyone in DeFi. But I think it is super achievable in the next year, and we have a lot of solid ideas on how exactly we're going to do this. Again, not releasing too much information at this point, but we're researching a lot of off-chain gossip networks for how we can gossip orders amongst a decentralized network and sort of have the function that we at Dydx Trading play right now in terms of operating the off-chain matching engine, just more performed by a decentralized network of participants. So that's probably all I'll say about that for now, but this is, as you say, a really core part of the research and of what we're going to be building in V4.
That's fantastic, thank you. And for those trying to request to speak, just hold off until the end and we'll all answer questions just right at the end of the AMA, please. And last question, Antonio, from the community, from Murat SSS. There's a wonder if you're thinking to switch from an ETH network to your own network, like every huge growing project. If you have an idea to switch to your own network, you have answered this question, but if your answer is no, are you planning to do anything about commission fees? We pay a fee both when depositing to the staking section, when withdrawing, and when receiving bonuses. This situation seriously harms the investor.
Yeah, so great questions. I think those are two pretty separate things. So I'll take the first one first. Again, we're not going to say exactly what we're building right now because we don't know. Like, again, we're more in the research phase of just trying to design the optimal architecture for what we want to build in the next protocol. I put out a somewhat spicy tweet on this, I think, a couple of months ago. That's probably continues to be the best insight as to how I at least think about Ethereum versus other chains. Just sort of like rehashing that a little bit and then sort of focusing on on what that means for Dydx v4. I think Ethereum is clearly the leader in terms of building a decentralized platform for running smart contracts right now. It is the most decentralized, and there is by far the most infrastructure built up on top of Ethereum versus other chains. But that being said, a lot of other chains, we're obviously looking at things like Solana, things like Cosmos, things like Starknet, things like potentially other layer 2s that could roll up to any one of these given layer 1s. The point here is that I don't care, like if we build v4 on Ethereum or Solana or Cosmos or Starknet or whatever, from sort of like growth and community perspective, I only care about building the best possible product. And that is always how we think about decisions that we make at Dydx. Again, like no specific decision has been made on that so far, but the point there is we're keeping our options open and looking at like how exactly can we build the best possible product for traders to achieve our goal of becoming one of the biggest exchanges in crypto. Again, I know this wasn't like exactly the question that was asked, but just sort of like giving a little bit more context on that. I think it's always really important that we all keep in mind what the goal of Dydx is. It's not to become the biggest decentralized exchange in crypto. Like we've already sort of done that. Like we're basically tied with Uniswap to become one of the biggest exchanges in crypto, decentralized or centralized. And to do that, we just need to build the best possible product and not sort of be beholden to any specific technology for more like, I don't know, like cultural reasons, I guess. So we're keeping our options open and thinking about it from a purely technical perspective. Then second question, also a good one, like, are we thinking about, I guess if I were to summarize, like, are we thinking about, I guess, reimbursements for potentially gas fees that are paid by traders on the platform? I guess in response to that, I'd point at one of the things that we also launched in the past month that I was pretty excited about, which is Gasless Deposits on the exchange. Again, and I guess this kind of relates to what I was just saying, but like obviously gas fees on Ethereum are extremely expensive right now. And we recognize that, and we want to continue to drive a lot of volume to the protocol. So that was something that we launched in the past month that I think directly addressed that problem going forwards, and should make the platform a lot more accessible to both existing and new traders.
Fantastic, thanks Antonio, that's super interesting. Okay, and now more broadly, questions for the Dydx trading team. How is the progress going in terms of the mobile app development?
Yeah, I can take this one as well. So it's coming along quite well, actually. I guess one piece of alpha here, we just ran internal trading competition on the Dydx app where everyone on the team used the app, which is basically done and built. We're just kind of in final testing on it right now to do a bunch of trading, on mainnet with real money. So the point there being the app is built. These things take a little bit of time in terms of squashing all the bugs and making sure we can deliver a really high quality product to the traders in the community. But we're really close and we're almost there. There's no specific timeline for exactly when that's going to launch, but that is another really exciting thing that I think we'll be launching in, let's call it like the next few months, if not sooner. Also, like backing up and maybe talking a little bit more about why I'm really excited about the mobile app. First of all, obviously, mobile is a super important paradigm for technology in general, and I think just having a mobile app will make Dydx a lot more accessible to a lot more traders all over the world. The other reason I'm really excited about it, and the reason I think that there's a huge opportunity, especially on mobile, is because I think nobody really has nailed a great trading app for crypto on mobile so far. Obviously like FTX, Binance, etc. have trading apps, but I think that there's still quite a lot of improvement in kind of the product and design space around trading apps in general, and kind of getting mobile trading in crypto to be up to the standards of what is more expected in the traditional markets, more kind of similar to the quality of like a Robinhood. And I don't think crypto is there yet, so I think there's a big opportunity for DYDX. And yeah, again, specifically answering this question sometime in the next few months.
Awesome, that's great, thank you. Can you talk more about the Trading Leagues product?
Yeah, for sure. So maybe I'll just give a quick intro on this. Corey was kind of the mastermind behind this one, so you can talk more about it. But effectively what we wanted to do and the goal of this was to drive a lot more gamification, a lot more social interactions, and pretty persistent rewards to trading on DYDX. I think, sort of just motivating this, like the worlds of like trading and gaming are not connected, but somewhat similar, I would say. So I think a lot of the kind of mentality that goes into trading is a similar mentality to what exists in like gaming at large, whether it's video games or poker, etc. And I think we can just take a lot of learnings from what has worked well for those industries and kind of bring them into crypto for the first time. Like, nobody's done this before, even on centralized exchanges. And drive a lot more retention and user adoption through this product. Effectively what it is, I think, if you've played video games before, it should feel pretty similar. There's basically 5 leagues, bronze through diamond. Everybody will start out in bronze league, and then will kind of work their way up to diamond league based on their trading performance, and then there will be rewards for the top traders in each league on a weekly basis. So I'll stop there. Corey, I don't know if you wanted to add anything else.
Yeah, I think that's a really good overview. I think when we think about it at a high level as well, it kind of makes the product a little bit more approachable. So when we think about adding new users to the exchange and kind of growing the protocol more broadly, being able to enter a product and basically like enter some sort of competition or game where you can get feedback on how well you're doing on a weekly basis is kind of a unique way to continue to add and expand like DYDX protocol. And another thing I would add there is, we're definitely thinking about ways to tie it back to the DYDX token as well. So I think what's interesting here, if you look at like the prize and entry requirements, as you continue to level up in the system, you actually have to have more DYDX or SDK DYDX in your wallet that you're holding. And so the goal here is really to not only onboard people to become like more active traders, but also continue to onboard to the governance protocol more broadly. And so I think what we'll start to see here is just like more distribution of holders of the token as well, which is a positive.
Thanks, Corey. That was great. And then going in the opposite direction, is there a time frame on the NFT announcement? Can you disclose any of the utility yet? And that was from Thrall.
Yeah, good question. So first of all, we haven't announced specifically that we're launching an NFT or anything like that, but let's say there will be another announcement later this week, which I think I teased last week in one of my tweets. But there will be another announcement later this week in just a few days, so stay tuned for that.
Fantastic. Next question from Roden. Will there be trading pairs on TradeView eventually?
Yeah, sure. I could take that one. So in short, we're working on it. There's kind of like a whole process that has to happen before a new exchange is integrated with TradingView, but we are in touch with their teams and are kind of discussing both the possibility of just adding DYDX markets so people could use their charting tools on their website, and then as a longer term discussion, also chatting with them about the possibility of adding an actual trading integration. I guess to give it some perspective, TradingView has, I think, somewhere around the order of magnitude of like 500,000 active traders per month that utilize their like trading infrastructure to actually execute trades. And so we would theoretically, if this happened, be like one of the first DEXs to ever be able to integrate with them. So having like two parallel conversations there.
Thanks, Corey. Are there any plans for the next content or trading competition? If so, when?
So I think the community can basically think of the trading leagues as a perpetual trading competition. So basically every week is a new competition. And so every week, essentially, we're launching these competitions with various cash prizes depending on the league that you're on. So these will essentially replace the previous format of the trading competitions.
Just one additional comment on the content side of things. Obviously still waiting on kind of the public results of the content competition, but going forward, I think the community grants program is funding a lot of content creation, newsletters, growth initiatives, etc. So I think broadly speaking, anyone interested in creating content for DYDX more broadly, encourage you again to apply to the grants committee and or just start to do it and then DM me for additional resources.
Great. And the last couple of questions for the trading team. Will DYDX trading have to hold a certain amount of coins to enable spot trading?
I'll take this one. Yeah, I guess maybe more broadly, I'll interpret this question as, will there be spot trading on DYDX in the future? And if so, like, what will that take from a product and protocol perspective? It's definitely something that we're thinking about for the long term. Again, maybe just like zooming out and kind of reframing the question in a different way. Everything decision making for me and the trading team, at least, always starts with what is our goal. Our goal is to become the biggest exchange in crypto, centralized or decentralized. The reason that we're so focused on synthetic trading is because that is the biggest market in crypto already, and it's continuing to grow really fast. So that is the main thing that informs our pretty singular focus on just building really high quality products and protocols, specifically for that use case of trading perpetuals and synthetic assets. But one of the things that we're excited about with spot trading is that it makes the product better overall, just to have multiple different types of trading in the same app. So it's certainly something that we're considering adding to the V4 protocol. In all likelihood, it would not be added to the current layer 2 perpetuals protocol, but this is something that we're thinking about adding for V4. We haven't really decided if we're going to be coming out of the gates with having this upon launch. It just opens up a lot of new questions, sort of like with whatever roll up or chain that you're on, like how many tokens do people have on that chain, right? Because when you're spot trading, the assets themselves literally have to be there, versus if you're just trying to support a protocol for synthetic trading, really all you need is just one collateral asset or multiple collateral assets. Whereas for spot trading, you need to worry a lot more about like bridging, onboarding and offboarding, etc. So to answer the question, we're definitely thinking about it, but it's something that the soonest would come with V4 in all likelihood.
Perfect. And then is there a rough roadmap of derivatives, so cross-margin, multi-settlement, inverse perps, expiry futures plan?
Yeah, a similar answer to the previous question. This is definitely something, again, that we're thinking about for the long term, and again, specifically thinking about adding into V4. And again, I'll just reframe it as like, what is our goal? Our goal is to become the biggest exchange in crypto. And therefore, we want to offer the products that people want to trade. It's not really our job or decision to be telling people what products they should be trading exactly. Again, like why we focused on perpetuals exclusively for at least call it the past year or two. It's really, that's where the market is at, right? From a volume perspective, perpetuals trade more volume than everything else in crypto put together. But that being said, one of the things that I'm excited about for the evolution of trading in crypto is evolution in other types of derivatives. Specifically, I'm looking at a lot at options, potentially more things like dated futures, potentially more, let's call it novel financial products, like the type of stuff that paradigm puts out in the research papers, etc. So again, similar answer. We don't have any firm plans to support any of that right now, but we are thinking about building a platform for building multiple types of trading products into V4 in the future, and that could come out either upon the launch of V4 or afterwards.
Perfect, thanks Antonio. And then finally, will the leagues have the option to follow other traders?
So this isn't a feature that we'll have at launch. Yeah, I mean, but kind of by definition, all traders' trades are private when you trade on Dydx, so it's not like something that's fully or easy to just like open up. Having said that, I think the interesting thing about trading leagues is it gives the opportunity for certain traders to expand their brand. And so, for instance, if you're doing really well in the trading leagues, maybe you start, maybe you release some sort of like trading bot on various on various protocols outside of Dydx that you are able to follow them on. And so I think trading leagues is a good way to objectively rank different traders. And then on top of that, there is at least one of those protocols or companies that do copy trading that are looking at integrating into Dydx. So I think for something in the future, once they complete that integration, you could theoretically see a world where top traders on Dydx are then launching strategies on some of these copy trading platforms, and then you could basically copy their trades on Dydx.
Thanks, Corey. Okay, so that's all the questions for the trading team. Thanks to the community for all pre-populating those. That's really helpful. So now moving on to questions for the foundation team. So David, specifically starting with the V4 plan, Rain Daniel posted, is it quite dangerous to become fully decentralized? Will the whale token holders be able to affect the voting results ahead of the more loyal and engaged users?
That's a great question. Is it dangerous to become fully decentralized? I think, that's a matter of personal opinion. I think generally the whole team and the ecosystem is aligned that, decentralized is better than centralized. And I think if we can build the best product that is built on decentralized technology that is on par with centralized exchanges, if not better, then I think a lot of the benefits of decentralization really just empower traders globally. So I don't necessarily see it as dangerous. I think there's potential implications around, from a technical standpoint, whether you can reach full feature parity. But again, the Dydx trading team, which is the best team in the space, is really focused on building the best product to address that. In terms of whale token holders being able to affect the voting results ahead of the more loyal and engaged users, I think generally speaking, the objective of launching the Dydx token is really to align incentives between various stakeholders in the overall ecosystem. I think as a general principle, we want to distribute tokens to active traders who are going to be long-term contributors, liquidity providers, or traders on the Dydx protocol. I think if you look at the token distribution schedule, we're only about 10% in. We're just at the start of Epoch 6. All of the existing pools and rewards and staking pools are set to last 5 years. So we're really just in that first inning. But even then, even though a lot investors currently have locked tokens that are subject to lockups, even today with 8% of the circulating supply in the hands of the community and liquid, the community by itself is able to submit proposals and pass important proposals that drive governance and decisions and growth for the overall protocol. So overall, I think it's important to understand, like, investors, the team, all have exposure to the token, and everyone wants the long-term and sustainable growth of the ecosystem. Community is over time gaining increasing control and power over the circulating supply, and so those dynamics will continue to play out. But I don't see large whale token holders as being a negative for the overall growth of the community, and encourage smaller token holders to come together and vote and pass meaningful proposals that impact kind of their situation.
Great, thanks for clarifying that, David. Another one's coming from Walrus. So there's been a proposal to add voting escrow Dydx. Does the team feel like adding curve-like token mechanics to either type of staking activity to be beneficial?
That's a really great question. I guess just to level set for those who aren't maybe familiar with Curve's kind of VE construct, effectively Curve pioneered this model that basically provides governance rights for anyone who stakes tokens, and so you basically require vote lock-in, and for people on Curve who lock their tokens for longer periods of time, so up to 4 years, they get kind of a greater weighting in terms of voting and governance. I think overall it's a really interesting design that again puts more governance rights into the hands of stakers who are presumably longer term participants in the ecosystem. Again, I think there was one thread or comment on the Commonwealth forums kind of indicating that this was an interesting design that the Dydx community should consider. Overall, I think encourage the community to continue to debate and do research on whether this type of structure makes sense for our community. I think ultimately the community has full control over the governance contracts, which includes how governance voting weights are allocated. So certainly this is within the control of the community, but just because one other project does it doesn't mean that it makes sense for us. So I encourage whoever submitted this question and the community more broadly to do kind of more research and understand the implications of passing a proposal like this. But at the surface, I think it is a really interesting design, but it does come with its own set of trade-offs.
Thanks. Next question coming in from Chris. Is there any progress on automatic staking instead of having to claim then stake?
Yeah, so this is a great question that's come up a lot, both on Discord as well as Commonwealth. Overall, I think this is a really interesting feature that certainly would be beneficial for stakers, i.e. For anyone who's staking Dydx to the safety module. Currently, you have to withdraw or claim your Dydx at any time during the Epoch, which costs gas fees, and then you have to restake those earned Dydx for that to compound. I think the proposal for it to automatically compound makes a lot of sense. It would cost less, in gas, and just continue to increase the size of the safety module. I think the issue here is really on the engineering side. This is definitely not, a trivial kind of task around building in this automatic staking, and just quite frankly, on the engineering side, we're quite bandwidth constrained. having said that, this is certainly an improvement to the governance contract that could be proposed by the community. If there's any developers who want to take a look at the open source code, there's certainly room to improve it, add new features such as automatic staking, and so would encourage kind of the community to drive that initiative. The other kind of area or way to achieve this goal would potentially be to work with another DeFi protocol. It could be someone like Yearn or Yearn Vaults, and basically create automated strategies where people stake Dydx on Yearn, and Yearn is the one that automatically compounds those rewards. So again, these smart contracts are fully composable on layer 1. So far, we haven't seen a ton of community engagement or development around them, but these contracts are in the hands of the community. They can be upgraded, and so important features like automatic staking could be implemented if the community mobilizes around it.
That's great news. Thanks, David. Then another question from Meng. Is there anything we can do about listing new tokens at a faster rate? I know this has been a common question that's come up in the community as well.
Yeah, this is a great question, Meng. I think generally speaking, towards the end of last year, the Dydx trading team was adding 1 to 2 new markets a week. That's stalled a little over the last few weeks and months.
I think the protocol currently has a number of additional markets that are eligible to be added. I think to add a new market on Dydx, there has to be a reliable oracle, market makers who are willing to provide liquidity, and then it needs to pass kind of a competitive analysis. So like ultimately to become, the largest exchange in crypto, I think the Dydx trading team has always been focused on just listing the assets that are most traded. And so really focusing on kind of the high quality, most traded assets, I think is going to continue to be the strategy there. And then lastly, it needs to pass a regulatory review
to make sure that the token in question is not a securities by US standards. So that's kind of the framework that's been formalized. I think, again, if you look at the Commonwealth forums, there's a thread that was started by Wintermute, Evgeny at Wintermute, around creating a committee to basically put the business case around adding new tokens. I think that proposal has somewhat stalled, and generally speaking on Commonwealth and on Discord, there's a lot of one-off requests for listing a given token, which I think is helpful just to get a sense of like market sentiment, but ultimately we encourage the community to put together really a more robust kind of framework around, here's a list of the 20 new markets that we want listed, the business case around it, and kind of all the other parameters that I mentioned. Again, adding new markets to the protocol at this point requires, a governance vote for it to be added to the smart contract. So there is a process here, but I think, there's probably 5 or so new assets that can be added that are already included in the protocol, but any new asset beyond that would require governance vote. So I think this is really an area for the community to really try to push and come up with a more holistic framework for which markets to list and do that in kind of a more constructive manner than just one-off requests.
Thanks, David. And then just the last few questions. Are there any plans on pushing the
writing for the DYDX protocol?
Absolutely. I mean, I think marketing broadly is an area that, certainly the foundation and I believe the DYDX trading team are extremely focused on. I think at times it does seem like we live in our own little echo chamber or large echo chamber in crypto. And I think the most important thing when you've built a product as great as ours is really getting the word out there. So, at least at the foundation side, we're looking to hire a marketing associate. We have a job description posted on our careers page. I think the DYDX trading team also is looking to hire in various marketing roles that are listed on their careers website as well. But broadly speaking, I think now marketing really is in the hands of the community, right? I think word of mouth and getting all of our users and community members to share important updates and really be helping to drive kind of broader awareness of DYDX across different distribution channels is really critical. Beyond that, I think the grants committee has explicitly come out with a few RFPs just generally focused on growth and marketing. So anyone who wants to, write a newsletter or build kind of marketing or growth related things, you can get funding for that as well. And then, I think from the product side, a lot of the initiatives that Corey and Antonio mentioned around the trading league product and creating kind of virality there, I think we, holistically we're all thinking about growth marketing across different channels. But I think marketing broadly is an area that we are focused on improving, and I do think that the community has to play a stronger role in terms of helping to drive kind of marketing more broadly. The last point I'll make here is, with version 4 of the protocol that Antonio was discussing, I think in a similar vein, I think the community should be thinking a lot about what does growth and marketing look like, when version 4 of the protocol is released. And so how do we build, the best decentralized marketing engine for the DYDX ecosystem to continue to bring in new traders that really help us achieve our mission that we've already discussed.
Great, thanks, David. And then the last few questions. What is the minimum amount of funding you can apply for the grants program?
So that's a great question. I see we actually have, I believe, Seabergs in the audience, who's from the Reverie team. So maybe we can bring him on stage and he can kind of address high level some of the requirements there.
Mute Seabird.
Hey guys, how's it going? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we're all good.
Hey, yes. Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yeah, the question was, is there a minimum amount of funding that you can apply for the grants program?
No, I mean, yes, that's a good question. There's technically not a minimum. I think we are not trying to pay out tiny grants. We obviously want it to be as productive as possible, and we want people to be well rewarded for the work that they're going to do as well. And given the funds that we have in place, we're looking at a range of about 10K is going to be probably the lower bound. So I wouldn't expect grants to be below 10,000 in USD notional.
Great, thanks, Seaberg. And the last question for David would be, do you interact with other DAO projects at them?
At a personal level, I spend virtually all of my time interacting with other DAO projects and exploring kind of the DAO infrastructure tooling set out there. Obviously, it's a pretty dynamic space. There's a lot of different DAOs out there. A lot of them don't work super well. Again, I think for us for the Dydx community to really have control over, the largest crypto trading platform out there, I think for that we need to really build the best in class DAO possible. And so I think there's a lot of lessons learned by experimenting and exploring what other people are doing. Generally speaking, I can't say that I've been super impressed. I don't know that there's any DAO out there that's really best in class quite yet. I think there's a lot of DAOs that have interesting models and things to learn from, but I think this is really a white space for us to build the best DAO possible. I think one additional point here is that, one objective for the community should be really around driving utility for the Dydx token more broadly within the broader ecosystem. And so I think, encourage the community to also participate in other DAOs and see whether there's any ways to partner and really drive kind of utility for Dydx by, really leveraging that composability. So my example earlier around working with potentially Yearn to build, an automatic staking kind of functionality to the safety module contracts, for something like that to be built, there would need to be community members that are active within kind of the Yearn DAO to help kind of drive that discussion. So again, I think, if you think about DAOs and are excited about DAOs, this is literally what I geek out about all the time. So feel free to DM me, and if you have any ideas or specific examples that you think other DAOs are doing really well, always happy to chat on that.
That's great. Thanks, David. Okay, I know we've gone on for a while, guys, in the audience. What we'll do, let's just open up the floor for one or two questions. If you want to ask a question, raise your hand now, and then we can invite you up to the stage. We'll give you a minute or so to do that. And because we've gone on a lot and gone over on a lot of time, we'll probably have time just for one or two questions. So please do raise your hand if you've got a question. And it can be to the foundation team, to the trading team. No questions? Okay, there's one. Start well. Okay, great. I'll invite you to speak. Hopefully you should have got it start well. Brilliant.
Can you guys hear me? Okay, cool. When you guys say you want to do a community-led governance and you want governance to be a V4 effort in relation to marketing, what are you picturing? Because I've had some ideas personally. They're actually, I actually want to talk to someone about these ideas in some capacity. Because to really build out a codified marketing angle or arm for a decentralized platform is a unique challenge. And I'm kind of wondering what the team really has in mind or what you guys are envisioning and what does that entail?
Yeah, I think it's a great question and definitely a unique challenge. Certainly happy to chat after this AMA and brainstorm there. I mean, I think in, my very kind of preliminary thoughts here is that, ideally, all of Dydx users currently are outside of the United States and really around kind of crypto hubs in various markets. And I think, the ultimate vision is how can we get the community to mobilize around, 20 or so different marketing agencies that are community controlled and community funded and community staffed that really help drive localized growth targeting different geographies around the world. I think that's very much big picture, but we're spending a lot of time thinking more formally about a community manager and ambassador program, and then really helping to drive, increasing localization of our content and the product into various languages, and really trying to educate, support users with guides, and really reduce kind of the barrier as much as possible. So I think that's probably the lowest hanging fruit. I think beyond that, I think our competition now is really, the FTXs and Binances of the world that are spending, $50 to $100 million a year on, sports sponsorships and various kind of marketing efforts with very substantial budgets. I think, the whole team, Antonio in particular, and then various community members have been very vocal about the fact that, in DeFi more broadly, community treasuries are just quote, criminally underutilized, right? I think it's even the grants program, which is currently funded, at the time with $6 million, representing one of the largest grants programs in DeFi, is still a relatively small marketing budget. And so, how do we build the infrastructure, tooling, community members that ultimately we get to a place where we're spending, $50 to $100 million a year, financed by the community treasury, to really elevate the brand and the Dydx ecosystem beyond kind of the current distribution channels that we have today. I think those are, again, just high level thoughts from the community side of things, but again, I think there's a lot of room for building and creative approaches to really help address what does a decentralized marketing DAO or sub DAOs or working groups look like in the context of Dydx. So if that's a challenge that you're excited about, I'm happy to chat anytime.
Okay, cool. Yeah, basically what you said in summation is pretty much what I was wanting to hear and what I was thinking in part. I think it's it's a really important metric people don't realize. Binance, when they ICO, they spent literally 50% of their ICO budget on marketing, and that's why they are where they are right now. And they did exactly what you were talking about doing. They went global, they targeted every market. They're very active and they're very proactive. And so I wasn't sure on what level you were looking into this, but that's what you guys have been talking about is really wonderful. So I'm really happy to hear it. And thank you also for having me on as a speaker.
Thanks, Dartwell. Yeah, your voice in the community is really valued, and thanks. Based on time, guys, we're going to have to wrap up here. I'll just finish on reiterating that Gasless Deposits are still live. These are $1,000 for new users on their first transaction and $2,000 for existing users, limited to every 3 days. I know there's been some concern in the community with regards to supported wallets. So confirm Dydx supported wallets for depositing and withdrawing a MetaMask, Ledger, Coinbase wallet, Wallet Connect, Token, Trust Wallet, Rainbow, and Token Pocket. Other wallets may work, however, they're just not fully supported by Dydx yet. I know there's been some recent difficulty with bridging the Trezor wallet. One member of the community, I think yesterday or the day before, managed to successfully do this by turning the Gasless Deposits off. So finishing on that, thanks everyone for tuning in. If it was your first time, great. If it was you've been around for a while, fantastic. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for posting the questions, asking the team really detailed responses. We're always monitoring the community. Keep up the comments and interaction. It's really encouraging to see all the support and knowledge that you hedgies have. So let's end on that note. This will be deciphered and posted as soon as we can, hopefully within the week. So have a lovely evening, morning, or afternoon, wherever you are. Take care, and I'm going to close the stage now. Bye-bye.